good. So welcome to Form Design Center, and welcome to the last drawing room. My name is Roxana, and I work here as a coordinator. And I'm just here to introduce the project, and then I will let Nonto and Charles take over. But the drawing room, I mentioned, it's the last one. This is the 6th one, and we've had 9 great years with this project. So the project started off from artists, from the perspective of artists, where the point was to have a space, a forum, where artists could just hang out and meet and not having to produce anything, or designers, architects, whatever you want. So the project started off with that. The base of the project is that one local artist or designer invites someone from abroad that they are inspired by, whose work they like. And we've had many different ones, but this time Nonto decided to invite Charles. They have a public talk where they talk about anything they want really, but connected to their practice, what they do, why they do it. And then there is a workshop the day after. The workshop is a closed workshop, but I just want to mention that there is some slots left, and it's a low-tech animation workshop this time. So if you're around tomorrow, it's at 2 to 4, and you want to be in the workshop, let me know, and we can put you on the list. And if you want to know some more info about it, you can ask them later. So yeah, that's the gist of it. I'm going to invite Nonto and Charles up to the stage. They're going to talk, and then afterwards, we will open up for questions. So if you have any questions, just sit on them, and you can talk about them later. Okay, so welcome.
I love the intensity of the clapping.
Yeah.
And that's, I love it.
Hello, everyone.
Our mic's on. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Nonto and Charlie in the house. Nowhere.
Oh, wait, there it is. Sorry.
Are we on? Am I 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 on? Not for them, not for them, not for them, not for them. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Nonto in the house. What you gonna do? Okay. We're
Busting
back.
out the rhymes, man.
Hello, beautiful people. Hello. How are we doing today? I mean, are the human beings in the house or not? How are we doing today?
Hey, there we go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Welcome to the drawing room. We're super duper amped, a bit nervous, but really excited. Do you hear music playing?
Oh, sorry, that's me.
Charles's phone is always playing music. Like.
Sorry, yeah. I'm a music addict, sorry.
Okay, so yes, my name is Nontokozo Tshabalala. Nontokozo means mother of happiness, so the essence of joy. And it is a name in Zulu, given to me by my late grandmother, who is my biggest inspiration. And I'm not sitting by myself today. I'm with my boy, Charles, who is a great inspiration to me. We come from a very tiny, small, little town in the middle of nowhere, but somehow it has managed to produce the two of us. So we're gonna take you on a little journey. We decided to call this gathering right here, or rather the two of us here, Ghost Town Kids, right? So the nickname for our small little town, which is called Standerton, is Ghost Town. So we decided to call the two of us Ghost Town Kids in Malmö, representing Standerton. Shout out to the people who are watching.
Yeah. Hello, mommy.
And so, quick one. We only the second time we met was on Sunday.
Yeah, which is wild, man.
Yeah, because the first time we met was at an exhibition that we curated in Standerton in our hometown. So the picture that you see was part of the exhibition called Creators Shall Govern, and we turned a skate park into a gallery space, and we had some local artists exhibiting their works, and there was about 8 of us. And this is our first picture together. Me super focused, Charlie super focused, and we were like putting a show together. So That was the first time we met, but these are just like some pictures from, yeah, from back home from that specific exhibition. And this was the group of creatives, young artists who are doing the most in our small little town.
Yes.
And we've got like, what's Oratile again? She is an
She's like,
architect.
yeah, she's an architect who runs like a thrift on the side thing.
Yeah.
She's really like the leader of the creatives when the
Yeah.
famous Nanto isn't around. And this group that you see here is like the group that's basically pushing the creative culture within this like small town. So
Yes.
yeah.
So this is us in our let's
Gang
dance.
gang.
Boom 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 boom. And so that's how Charles and I met. And it was just like, who's this Charles? Who's this Charles? Charles, Charles, Charles.
It's the
That's all
guy
I
in the
heard.
Hawaiian
Charles,
shirt.
Charles, Charles, Charles. And then he rocks up in a Hawaiian shirt, looking fly, with his dope illustrations. And I was like, my boy,
Hey.
what's a god?
What?
Hey! And so, yeah, so that was the first time that we met. And so we started to think about like what are our common themes within our work and our practice, and some of them that we really like kind of just jotted down was that we're both pathfinders, so we never really had like what do you call them, like role models who did graphic design or illustration and stuff like that. So we pretty much kind of like figured it out ourselves somehow. I studied at UJ, University of Johannesburg.
I went to the Durban University of Technology, which is like all the way on the other side of the country.
Yeah. Yeah, so we kind of had to leave the small town to go find ourselves outside there.
Yeah, my parents actually told me to become a teacher or an accountant first, then come back to design.
Yeah.
And I was like, hell no.
Yeah. It's like, look at us now,
Yeah.
Mom.
They still don't know what I do, but it's fine.
Mine
Yeah.
too, actually.
Oh, you
No, my mom's just like, so I know you do design, but I'm not sure what it is that you do. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's fashion, sometimes it's other things, and I'm just like, I mean, I do everything, so
Yeah, yeah.
it's okay. And the second theme that we found was that we're both not afraid to use colors and be bold with our colors. So that's, yeah, I think both of us, we like really admire how we use our color palettes, at least. Experiences in our work, and we just kind of talk about life
Yeah.
through our work, right? Yeah, so I will begin. As I said, my name is Nontokozo, and I'm going to be taking you through three projects. The first is, well, not the first project, but the themes were, remind me? Ding, ding, ding.
Branding,
Yes.
personal projects,
Yes.
and illustration. Yeah, so
Illustration.
those are the three categories that we will be discussing with you today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing. So the first project that I will take you through, first of all, sorry, before I get too far, could we please take just one moment of silence for all the atrocities that are happening around the world, including the genocide that is happening right now in Palestine and all the other African countries, Congo, Sudan? Because as much as we're all here exposed to the easy side of life and being able to move from one place to another effortlessly, there's other people who don't have that. So can we please just take one moment of silence for all of them? Thank you. So the first project that I am going to take you through is called Future Brown Space. And Future Brown Space is a research-based project based in Stockholm, run by an amazing human being named John Paul, who's also South African. Shout out to the Saudas. Woo! And he basically just was like, listen, I love how you use color. I love how you just take up space with your illustration, with the illustrations. So could you please just like do a thing for us, create something that talks about the Afro-Swedish experience in terms of it being, or rather like how he is creating through his research project a space for Afro-Swedish individuals to create, and specifically artists and creatives. So he has like a bunch of different workshops and performances and so many different things. And so he asked me to create the branding for it. And so the one thing that I wanted to kind of tap into when working with it was kind of looking at the past and trying to think about the future, because he really wanted to work also with like this futuristic aspect of how I design and how I think about design. So with that, I wanted to look at the indigenous writing system from South Africa, which is called the Nguni, or Southern Africa, which is called the Nguni writing system. And I think one aspect of that is that in the sort of Western world, we don't get the opportunity to look at other forms of design and find inspiration from them. And so through this project, and actually through my practice in general, I try to go back to my history to find inspiration there, because we're so tired of the West. We have heard everything from A to Z. And I think that, yeah, things are changing, and so should design, and so should the world in general. And so this project basically kind of looks at the writing systems from then to kind of create a space for these Afro-Swede creatives and artists who are still creating and creating for the future. And so my favorite quotes when talking about indigenous knowledge and creativity in essence, I have this quote by Simon Charwe from African Design Matters, and he's from Ghana. And he says, the depth and complexity of indigenous African design systems with its metaphysical or spiritual and heterogeneous cultural past is something yet to be explored by the world of design as a culture of creativity. And basically what that means is, let's look at the past and like, let's not just think, oh, it was just like scribbles. No, no, no. There's a very deep essence to how our foremothers and fathers created and what they thought about when they designed, right? So not the Western form of looking at design, but like our way of looking at design. And so I started to look at, yeah, the Nguni writing system, and this book is Indaba, My Children by Credo Vusama Zulu and Mutwa, Vusama Zulu Mutwa. And he basically documents this like writing system actually from around Southern Africa, and specifically this. And I started to look through them to find some symbols that would kind of epitomize the space that we were creating. So I started to find ones that talked about like the space called Future Brown Space, what it represented, and you see, as you can see there, have like future, home, greatness, us, and guidance as some of the symbols. And through that, like trying to figure out like how to create a branding system, which you will see how it unfolds in the next slide. So this was one way of kind of expressing it, and this was something that we did together with Osman Chuma, my former business partner. And so this is a video that will show you how we put all of these like symbols together. There's no music, so I'll just hum for you. So that was the logo. that I put together. And again, just trying to like rethink what does a simple logo, simple look like for me, and it's complex, right? So for me, it's like, yes, let's put everything we want to say into one logo and make it look delicious. And so this is what ended coming out of that. And so, as you read in there, it's, Future Brown Space is a place to celebrate ourselves in a future oriented in the abundance of black and brown joy and hope. Through the logo, we explore the Nguni ancient writing system as a way to assert ourselves in the future by reimagining that which was passed down to us by those who forever guide us. And so, with that, again, trying to explore color, trying to explore how to make it vibrant, and yeah, to pretty much just play around with the color. So these are just some of the like business cards that were created. These were postcards, and within the postcard would take each symbol. And if you were to receive the postcard, you would then get the description at the back, explaining like what the symbol was. And this was a way to also like educate the people who receive our postcards, because there's also this thing of like people always wanting. I don't know, thinking things are so complex when actually they can be like super duper simple. And so we wanted to just kind of like educate, take the time to read and to look at the writing system and acknowledge that it is beautiful and that, you know, it comes from a rich history as well. So kind of getting clients and people who are invested in learning about that and bringing them in to learn about the system itself. And so this is just some of like how the publication covers came out. Okay, so that was the last project. The next one, illustration project, which was for Facebook Africa. And I was tasked together with two other illustrators. We were tasked to pretty much like design or illustrate portraits of influential South African women in business, and who were pretty much just like, you know, breaking the ceiling, doing their thing. And I was tasked with these amazing six women. Actually, there were seven. And yeah, pretty much like enjoy having to capture the person that I was like illustrating. I absolutely enjoy working with pattern, so I try to infuse pattern into my illustration, but also things that make the person that I'm illustrating, you know, that personify the person that I'm illustrating. So, for example, I don't know, okay, like with the one on the right, Bonang Mateba, like she's all about the bling, you know, so brought in some glitter, and she's looking sassy on there. Love it. And then Prof Tuli Matansela, she was, what was the title of Miss Prof Tuli Matansela? She was like the lady who basically puts all the politicians in check, you know, like, thank you, public protector, exactly.
Yeah.
So she's all about the books and law and, like, you know, keeping people in line. So she has the books in the back. And so, yeah, so those were the illustrations. And then the patterns that as I said, like, I enjoy creating patterns and creating symbols. And so with each and every single woman, I put. And then the last project, this was quicker than I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. So, oh, am I talking fast? Are we good? Okay, we're good, we're good, we're good, we're good. Because I tend to talk fast when I'm nervous. So
Yeah.
I can't pick it up. All I know is I'm through everything. And then the last project is called Zitande. And Zitande means love yourself. I had recently moved to Sweden, Sverige, fresh off the boat, trying to figure out where am I going? What is this country in the middle of nowhere? I was here to come and do my master's in design, but honestly, I didn't know where I was going until like 2 weeks before. And then I was like, wait, let me Google. And then I like Googled a bit, and it was like all these gray photos and just like really shitty weather. And I was like, what am I gonna do, Nanto? How did you get yourself in here? But the truth was that I was actually looking for a way to leave advertising, because I worked in advertising for a year and a half. That's the longest I can keep a job, or rather stay at a job, choose to stay at a job, because I quit, you know. And so I was there for like a year and a half, and I just like got fed up of like, make pretty, send, make pretty, send. I believe that I have a purpose, and I wanted to create work that was meaningful, that had an impact, and so I then moved to Sweden to come study design. And my whole thing was that I'm not paying for it. I want to go on holiday, and somebody's got to pay for it. That's how I viewed it. So I was like, what do I have? And I was like, brains. Okay, so let's do my master's, you know? That's how I ended up in Sweden. And so, yeah, having to Google 2 weeks in advance and being like, oh, I forgot the destination of the holiday. I was just like, holiday, you know? So there I was in Sweden, I think 25, 26 years old, and everything sort of turned upside down. I think I got to some sort of rude awakening of like both myself, but also like, it's a really weird country, guys. Like, from South Africa to Sweden? Jeez, it's like far.
it's a
He's
huge
still
shift.
having a good time.
Hey.
Because it's like 7 days.
Yeah, man,
exactly.
it's
He's on
wild,
real
man.
holiday.
Yeah.
But for me, it was really difficult. And I started to lose myself a little bit. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. I couldn't find myself. I couldn't figure anything out. And so I started to create this poster series called Zitande. And as I said, Zitande means love yourself, to appreciate yourself. And I did a self-portrait illustration, and the one on the right is the very first one that I tried. And the whole point was to just like capture these different moments of transition and change, and how to celebrate them, because I understood that I was growing into someone better, and instead of fighting it, but to really just like embrace it. And so I started to do like different versions of them at different points of reflection. So I'll just take you through like some of them. These two will be on exhibition at, Nora, tell me again? Panora, thank you. This Saturday, so you'll also be able to see them. They'll be printed out. And some of them are on sale. Please to grab a print on your way out. And yeah, so these are just like some of them. And as I said, the one on the right is going to be the one that's on exhibition. That's our favorite baby model right over there, Ezekiel. Shout out Ezekiel. He's now 5 years old, which is ridiculous. But yeah, that print attracted the babies the entire night. But what I wanted to show there was that the pattern that is on the print became something that I wanted to like expand on. So from just simply like doing self-portraits, they then become earrings. So I wanted to explore how to create jewelry and earrings from the pattern that I had there. And so the picture on the right is how I expanded from the pattern. And I called the earrings dimensions, because after exploring, I just kind of like walked around my school. I was at HDK in Gothenburg at the time. Shout out to HDK, shout out to Marie, my former classmate. Woo! And I had created them, and I didn't know what I had created, but I knew I liked it, and that's usually just how I work. And so I was walking around the school, and I was like showing everybody like, what do you think, like, what does this remind you of? And so people came up with, like, medallions and portals and all of these things. And I was like, okay, I'll take it, because that's exactly it. It was a transition. And so, yeah, so then they became jewelry. And we have some of them at the back, if you're interested in getting some as well. And that is me, I believe.
Yes.
Boom, 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 boom. Yes,
join us up.
that is me.
I'm the guy who has to follow all that up, eh? Hi, everyone. Hi again. Thank you for you guys for coming. My name's Charles, if you didn't catch it the first time. And thank you to you for bringing me all the way here. So I'm going to take you through a bit of my work here. Just some projects I've chosen to discuss with you based on the criteria that was given. in the first sort of section of the talk, which is branding, illustration, and some personal projects. So I'll just jump straight in. On the cover here, before we go in, that's me with like considerably less hair and Hawaiian shirt. So yeah, at the bottom is like my link to my website if you want to scan that later. Okay, so the first project I'll be taking you through is number one Maheu. So just brief sort of description before we go in here. I work in advertising back home. So I'm still an artist, like serving capitalism, because man's gotta eat. So, so some of the projects that I'm gonna show you here is like stuff that I got to work on, which were really big brands like back home, that like I take pride in, because like I still walk into a store and I'm like, I did that, you know what I mean? So, yeah, so yeah. So this first one here, number one Maheu, sorry, no problem.
Luckily, it's not your fault.
Hey, man. It's all right, that happens. So this first one I'm going to take you through here is number one Maheu. For the first few years of my career, I worked in advertising, like I just said, and I was in a packaging department specifically. So we did like a lot of below the line advertising, focusing on just like different sort of packaging, branding, and different sort of elements around that. So mostly that type of work. And what we have here is, a well-loved South African brand. Number one Maheu is a fermented non-alcoholic drink. So it's basically used as a meal sort of replacement in back home. So, a kind of on-the-go snack, if you will, for people when they're in a rush, or like, the lunch hour rush is like too hectic and you just got to take something to go. So the objective here was that, this is very much a heritage brand back home, and although it's like widely loved and widely consumed, it was losing traction with the younger generation, who didn't sort of find it appealing. And as a heritage brand, they were looking for a way to kind of rejuvenate themselves in a way that would be appealing to this new target audience. So on my right, probably your left, is it your right? Yeah, you're right as well. Yeah, so this is what the original packaging looked like when we were tasked with the job. It was a staple, but they felt it was sort of disjointed in the look, and it didn't sort of have like much stand out on shelf and in store. Um, and this is just like a view of it. These are the three core variant that are most like widely consumed back home. So these were the sort of first ones that would be the tester of how the project would continue and spread out. So basically what we looked at, and this is the branding portion of it here, is just kind of like uh, redesigning the logo for a modern sort of feel. They were very strict on this. They wouldn't like let us touch it at all, because it's a heritage brand, and because heritage brands are become so iconic and people know them, it's very difficult to kind of change it so people kind of still recognize it. So we had to play within very strict borders, but basically I'll just touch through it quickly, just condensing the logo, giving it a more sort of square shape, as you'll see on the sort of right side. So the original is the one with like the red tag. It felt like very separate elements, so we just kind of brought it together, cleaned it up a little bit. The pot is the most noticeable icon from the whole entire brand, so when they see that, they immediately know this is the product that you're looking at, right? So we just kind of simplified it, because things don't scale well when they're too detailed and you make them smaller. So just brought it out a little bit and simplified it a bit more. So and brought in a stronger variant in color, because the bright yellow, although it looks cool on screen digitally, on print it does tend to wash out, and you sort of need to sort of think about these things when working. So we just gave it a richer color, so it would be much bolder on shelf. And then, okay, so these are some of the reference motifs that we looked at. Because it's a heritage brand, it has to be a brand that represents the people who kind of take it. And this is an African country, South Africa. So we took references from some of the most like popular sort of cultures or tribes, if you will, that occupy South Africa. So Zulu tribes and Ndebele. I'll give you a reference because you guys obviously don't know who these guys are. So on the far left there, that's the Ndebele tribe. The two at the top, that's Zulu tribe. One in black is Xhosa, and the two ladies in the sort of traditional attire there, that's Swati. And then the middle picture is just like how this sort of traditional elements are interpreted by like different digital artists and stuff like that. So kind of just using a mixture of all these elements to see how we could bring this brand forward. And sorry, I need some water because,
That one.
yeah, just getting very dry up here.
It's getting hot in here, so hot. Take a bite.
Yeah, so yeah, just kind of looking at all these sort of reference motifs and then using it to sort of like create something new. The idea specifically here is we didn't want to single any one group out. So one thing that we had to consider really was how do we sort of touch on cultural aspects without being too specific to one culture and left some people excluded. So we had to look at a way to sort of combine all of these sort of elements together to form like new packaging. And the next slide is how we interpreted that. So, you know, these were the new variants that we came up with, each trying to give its own one a distinct look based on the references that you see, and each kind of touching on a different touch point. But like already you could see that like the brand had more sort of appeal by kind of housing a master lock up at the top with the yellow, and then bringing the varianting and the sort of traditional elements towards the bottom. So, you know, and then kind of the flavor and give your body a boost at the bottom. So yeah, this is what we came up with. I was pretty stoked because the system we work in advertising is that there'll be like 3 different designers who'll pitch designs, and then, you know, the best one wins, and clients immediately saw this and they were like, that one, don't show us anything else, just keep going. Yeah, so these were the 3 variants and the patterns that kind of came out of them. Yeah, and I was pretty stoked with how they came out. And then starter pack, because you know I'm a big illustrator, so I got to illustrate like the whole pack itself. And the idea is that because this is an on-the-go drink, you have to sort of represent how that looks in illustration, right? So I kind of worked on these like hyper-extended sort of like characters in extreme sort of action poses. I had an idea to do like 3 separate ones where they would do like South Africa's most loved sports, which are soccer, rugby, and cricket. But for budget reasons, they wouldn't let that happen. Yeah, so they just went with like the soccer player. But yeah, I kind of went with like warm tones here because, you know, I love like 70s aesthetics. So like I felt like those colors, and these colors are just like warm tones kind of represent home for me. This country is great, but it is cold, man. It is cold and it is gray. African man needs the sun. So yeah, so just like warm tones for the main variant, and then so the one on the left side would be the side of pack that just kind of has the tagline and the illustration, and then the on the that would be the opposite side, on the right side. The one on the right you just see is just to kind of give people an idea that hey, this package has changed, just so you don't get scared and get thrown off by the new look, right? So yeah, that's what we did. And then this is like how, you know, just an extension of the variants. I'm big on motion design, so everything like I do tend to make it move after I'm done with it. So this is just an expansion of what the branding goes on to be and how it starts to play online. And how do I get this to play? There we go. Yeah, so just fun kind of elements, you know, just making it fun. You know, I think it kind of looks trippy here where you just kind of get lost in looking at it. So, yeah,
Also,
and then,
like I'm so close to it. I'm like,
yeah, you just, sorry, yeah. And then this is just kind of more kind of close-ups views of that. Yeah. And then I'll just run through it quickly. And then, of course, because like the intention in the beginning was to bring it back to sort of like a specific target audience, you know, which is the younger generation. This is what it started looking like in the hands of like young users. So you have like, you know, traditional healer here, Tuai Sangoma, Zulu. So that's a healer, right? Yeah, healer, traditional healer. That's what it, how you say it in Zulu. Yeah, and then, you know, obviously kids like to use it as fashion statements. You know, just kind of looking cool with the product.
is that you? Oh, I thought it was like.
Yeah, that's the actual sound.
My bad.
Yeah, no. So, you know, kids looking cool, and this sort of becomes like user-generated content online where the product kind of promotes itself through its users. Sorry, I'm speaking in like very advertising terms because I'm just like, yo, that's my life, man. Come on. And then this one here is like, I thought it was really funny because like, can I turn up the volume? Right, so kind of creating a system where like youth are proud to sort of have the brand in their hands and kind of show it off as a cool, iconic statement piece. Yeah, and I think it's still wild that I get to see this and I get to say, hey, I made that, and it's such a loved sort of pride and joy of my country. Um, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, and then I think that's it. So the next project you're gonna see here is illustration portion of this. This was for Varsity College, their yearly diary designs. And Varsity College is basically like a private institution, a private tertiary educational institution back home in my country. And every year they sort of create like these cool diaries to kind of bring students in as like a package when you arrive at the school and stuff. So they came to us and they were like, hey, why don't you come up with an idea to see like, you know, how you could like a message that you could send to the kids at the beginning of the year, what would be cool. And I chose this project specifically because although I love illustration, I had to sort of think outside the bounds of how I could come up with a concept and push that further out in a look. So my sort of concept for this was create your own reality. So you know, when I think you enter tertiary, you go into it like looking to sort of make a place for yourself in this world, and in some essence, that is sort of creating sort of your own reality. You want to sort of live in a space that you feel most comfortable in, whether that be you know, whatever it is that you choose, and you would like to sort of have a space to create in, right? And this originally started as like a 2D illustration, and to push it further out, you know, I sort of had to take it upon myself to learn like 3D, because 3D has like a really like dreamy landscape. And I think it just sort of speaks to like this perfect element that sits between reality, what we consider real, and what's an illusion or fake, and how we can exist in the middle of that versus like, you know, as everybody has an imagination and things that they see that nobody else sees. So bringing that forward for the viewer. And another thing was that like, you know, it had to be all inclusive. So for this one, I chose to illustrate a character who was like, you couldn't identify who it was. Basically, you would just look at the character and feel like that was you. And you know, just kind of fun, sort of soft shapes. Yeah, so this project like took ages to get right, and these are just like some of the, you know, outputs of what it looked like. So this is front and back, and then sort of all the elements in the illustration themselves speak to the brand like motto. I won't remember them all here because these guys had a crazy brand book that you had to read, and it was a lot. Yeah, but it represents all the things you could, you know, get at the school. So you kind of just like a playful adventure of like your own world and your own space. Um, yeah, and I was really happy with how it turned out, man. Yeah, and that's some more views on it. Just kind of realistic settings here. And then yeah, so the next project, some personal projects. So in all of like these advertising adventures, um, I think the one thing that was like really hectic in advertising was that you couldn't choose what you did. Every project just comes in and you have to sort of do it. And I didn't really feel like I was representing anything per se. And I sort of like, it was the first time in my sort of design or illustration career where I was like, who am I and what am I really like trying to say? You know what I mean? And because like when I first started illustrating, I used to make like very green, blue characters. So, you know, just to sit in the middle of everything. And you know, as I grew up, I was like, okay, fine. I need to sort of pick a line and stand on it, and you know, choose that as a narrative. So what I came across, this was in 2020 lockdown. So I was stuck at home with my thoughts, just working every day and putting in the hours. So these are some characters that I came up with while I was working, and the whole idea was that during lockdown, I don't know how it was here in Sweden, but back home in South Africa, like everything was locked up. Like nobody could go anywhere. There were like soldiers on the streets, and it was just like it was hell, man. My girlfriend broke up with me, and I was living in the same apartment. Oh, it was
Chaos.
whew, it was a lot, man. So these characters, the concept basically here was like I built them around squares. So the idea was sort of confinement within your own space again, and what that looked like for different people. And then here, I think this is where I really started coming into the confidence of the idea that like on the internet, there are all these cool illustrations, but I would like to see, some people that look like me, man, like, doing just like everyday things. So yeah, I started to play in kind of that space, but like using all the things that inspire me. So obviously myself as a proud black man and, some 70s aesthetics, but like, just how people live their daily lives. And what I'm going to take you through here is just how that narrative sort of extends and grows over the course of a period of time, right? Then it comes here. So the illustration on the left with the girl with the white hair, who apparently recently we found out looks like her. So which is weird because like it is almost like we were manifesting this moment. But yeah. So this.
Also, can we just take a moment of silence for these delicious illustrations?
Yeah.
Like, this is just.
Yeah. I always get imposter syndrome when
Mwah,
people
mwah, mwah.
like talk like that. Uh, yeah, so this illustration here, this was a few years after that first project, and here I'd sort of quit my job, and I was like, hey man, just try and do things on your own to see where you're gonna end up, right? And that year I was like, I was going through this whole like quarter life crisis where it's like, oh, who am I, bro? Let me face my trauma. Let me do some stuff. Let me see what's happening. Let me figure out who I am. And I was looking to put that into an illustration. And this character here first started off as an NFT piece for a guy called Grant who lives in Cape Town. And he wanted to do sort of like traditional pieces that spoke to the African sort of aesthetic. And these are some of the characters that I played with. This one was a cool one that I thought was sort of like powerful, so I kept it to myself. I did make other good ones, but like this one, this one I was like I needed to keep. So yeah, I just kind of put everything I was feeling onto a character. I chose a feminine character because like I like that there's something sort of vulnerable about it, but it's very strong in its like vulnerability. Um, yeah, and back in my country, so wathinta umfazi wathinta ini?
Bogoto.
Siyabonga. So that means you touch a woman, you touch a rock, right? So,
Like,
there's a very powerful sort of aesthetic to this, and I just kind of chose it as what I wanted it to be, and I just put everything I was feeling onto the illustration, basically. And this is how it turned out. Yeah, so trauma, freedom, the fist is like identity representing me, trying to find myself. The X is like I'm very much into sort of like street culture, street fashion, all that stuff. So I wanted to look like really grimy with like rough shapes and stuff. So these are some of the aesthetics that I was exploring, and bringing in halftone textures. And then the one on the I'll just go by color because I can't tell anymore. um, the one in blue. Over the course of time, I met the lovely Nonto here, and as she mentioned the whole Sweden thing, like, hey, Form Design Center is having something, and we're not sure you could possibly come to Sweden, right? And I was like, all right, cool. Yeah, sounds sick. And I was like, I was excited. I told my mom, and then it just kind of went under the carpet for a little bit. And I was like, while we were doing all of that, Nonto and I were having a lot of discussions in preparation for the project. And Nonto's a very intelligent, kind of like smart, driven. She knows exactly what she wants. And with everything that I was showing her, like every piece of my work that I chose to show her that we would discuss here, she was sort of confronting me about it, like what it meant, like, you know, what was the idea there? How does it represent you as an African man? You know what I mean? And I started sort of thinking about that and how I could play into stronger narratives of who I am as an African man and show that like visually, but still sort of within that find a balance of the things that I love, like outside of the world. You know what I mean? Like, so you find like this man is in like a meditative pose, which is a very like Eastern culture thing where, you know, people are meditating and it's not otherwise black, right? And he's like, he's wearing a samurai hat, you know. I'm very much into like shinobi culture because I do kung fu in the mirror when I'm bored, but like, yeah. Uh, yeah, so this was just like, and this was something I did on a whim, right? So I was just like having fun here. This actually isn't even finished, but I think there's something in letting go of perfection because perfectionism is a killer. So you'll see if you look closely at the illustration, some of the lines don't touch everywhere. It doesn't finish quite properly, but there's something like beautiful in the way it all comes together. I think at least, right? I hope you do too. Yeah. So yeah. So that was that, and then this here is kind of where I just start having fun with things. You know, bring it all into. I feel like it becomes like a cohesive sort of feel of like who I've chosen to be as a person, how I represent myself, how I represent the people who look like me, and how I exist in the world, but bringing all my passions into it. And I think if I touch it, it does that. Yeah, so this is what might be part of the workshop if you're interested in coming tomorrow. This was kind of some frame animation I did here. So these are all characters kind of rotating in a circle, but again, bringing in all the influences that I love, you know, like fashion and, you know, basically looking cool, like patterns and stuff. Yeah, and this is it, man. Yeah, so this is the end of it, and thank you. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy!
Thank you so much. That was great. Actually, really great. Yeah. Questions? Any questions?
Oh.
Don't be shy. It's okay.
Please do ask us questions. He
What
came
did you
way
think
too
about
far.
it? Did you like it? Yeah.
Hey, we got a question in the back.
Come.
What was the response after you redesigned the drink thing?
The
From the company and from people that are like, yeah, that uses it.
oh, what was the response? Yeah, they loved it. Sales shot up, I think, by like 50%. Yeah, they went like high. Yeah, so it's been it's been doing really well. It's been doing really well. Yeah.
Have you been like illustrating since you were like younger, and like where did you like get that kind of like inspiration, you know, like to do this?
Oh,
Where's that from?
oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, sure, no problem. My cousin was the person who used to draw. We used to watch Dragon Ball Z. Do you guys know what Dragon Ball Z is? Yeah. We used to watch Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, exactly. And he used to draw like anime and like all these cool action poses. And I couldn't draw, but I always used to watch him. And one day I think I missed my mom. I'm a big mama's boy, so I hadn't
What
seen
do
her.
you like to say? Please say that.
Yeah?
Mama's boy.
Mama's boy worldwide, gang gang. Yeah, so I missed my mom one day and I picked up a pencil and I just like started drawing, and like I just kept going from there, and then eventually down the line it just kind of turned into like how can I make this drawing do more, so I kind of went into animation, and that's how we ended up here today. So when I'm stressed or when I like need to sort of clear my head, it'll just be pencil and paper just going crazy. Yeah.
That leads into our next question.
Yeah.
How do you de-stress? Like there's a lot of tools, but which one is your favorite, and how do you like
Yeah.
combine them?
Uh,
Not working.
when I'm not working.
Yeah. This one.
Ways to de-stress. Uh, I had a lecturer in varsity who once told me I needed to go like somewhere on a hill and just like shout, bruh. I didn't do that, of course, but ways to de-stress. I love skateboarding. So I'll be skateboarding, like getting hurt. I started skateboarding like beginning of high school, and there were a lot of like lessons in like with skateboarding, you always have to like fall first, like a lot of times. You have to fight to get like one trick 1,000 times. And there was like lessons in that. I'd go home with like broken shins and like my wrist to this day, like they snap like that all the time just from falling. So yeah, that's how I de-stress. And illustration itself, I think illustration has always been the way like I sort of observe the world and get to have an opinion about it. So I'll just observe what's happening in silence and then just kind of use that to sort of let something out, I guess. Yeah, illustration for me is like how I de-stress. If not that, then skateboarding. Yeah. More questions?
Well, you said in the beginning that I think your grandmother or your great-grandmother was
Grandmother.
Your grandmother was
Yes.
your very greatest source of inspiration. Do you
Yes.
mean, I mean, in general, or an inspiration for you as a designer and an artist?
I think, I mean, what I like to say is that she's one of the greatest artists I've met because she managed to create me. I grew up with her, and she taught me everything I know, from just how to engage with human beings, how to look at the world, how to care about others, how to fight for others. And it's more, yeah, it's more in the sense of just like being in the world. And I think I bring that through like my work and my illustrations and yeah, through my approach basically to design. You know, I like to understand where do we come from? Why do we care about certain things? And she's one of those people who really, like the first question that she used to, which I shared with you the other day, that she always used to say is like, what does Nontokozo want? What does Nonto want? And then you sit there as a 16-year-old thinking, I have no fucking idea, but I think I want to play netball. And then you just play the sport, you know? So she just taught me how to go after the things that I like and I want to do. And that really built my self-confidence. But also, like, totally shattered what other people deem as barriers. For me, I'm just like, what's that? Can we test it? Yeah, I'm going to do it. So, yeah, that's how she was.
Should we clap?
Anybody else?
I don't like awkward silence.
So if there's no more open questions like this, I will put on some music. There is still drinks, and you can hang around, talk to them personally. And like Nonto said, there is prints for sale.